Emma, welcome to the podcast. Can you start off by just giving us a little bit of background into you, into 95 Media, and into what you do?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for having me. My name is Emma Tessler. I'm the founder of 95 Media. And really, what we do is specialize in 3Xing our clients' growth with high converting content. I started 95 Media back in 2015, and that was a very different world of marketing back then. But even at that really early stage, I saw so much potential and so much opportunity for brands to grow their business utilizing these social platforms. And that has really what has been driving our mission for the past 10 years now is everything we do is to help our clients grow. It's just been incredible to see over a decade, which is so crazy to say, how many businesses have scaled and impacted more people themselves through growing on social. And that is really just my passion.
Yeah, I think you're doing incredible work, and I reference your podcast all the time for my own social media and to kind of point other artists that listen to this your way. But something that I think is really interesting that you focus on is organic marketing in particular. It's kind of a core part of your strategy. How do you think about organic marketing versus paid marketing, and how do you kind of balance authenticity and consistency with also focusing on obviously like you want to build that engagement?
I love this question because I have probably a different take on it than a lot of people. And that is your organic has to be in a good place before you do anything else. There are a lot of brands and a lot of founders who look at paid media, like running an ad on Instagram, for example, as a end all be all solution. If I just put $500 into this ad, it'll yield me 5 sales. I'll walk away with a few grand and I see an ROI. Unfortunately, it is not that easy anymore. And it's not only not easy because the platforms are smarter, but it's because your audience is smarter as well. We have all seen a lot on social media over the past decade and more. And people are smart enough to see when something is not authentic, when something is an ad, and everyone, has their guard up at the end of the day. So my belief is that everything should start and end with your organic marketing. That's really why we specialize in organic because we have helped so many businesses grow, incredibly fast, incredibly wide just using organic. And we do some paid as well. But truthfully, if your organic is not generating results for you on its own, it's really hard to jumpstart that with paid. I look at paid as sort of a like accessory. It's the bag that matches your outfit. It's not the entire outfit. Like you wouldn't leave your house with just a purse. You have to get dressed. You have to post organically. You have to have that be really strategic in order to build that foundation for your brand. Because that content is going to be what really creates your community, which is what brands are based on these days. And to forget that is sort of setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I think that's really, really an interesting take, and I think it's important because I think so many people think, "Oh, things aren't working, I'll invest in paid and that'll fix my problem." When in reality, you need to figure out why things aren't working, figure out your organic content, who you are, what you're trying to say first, and then the paid can enhance that. So I love the handbag analogy because I think that just made it so clear in my mind.
Yeah, good. I think it's a really important point that everyone should see. We've had people come to us and say, like, we're only getting sales from paid right now, and we want you to run our paid. And we don't take on that work. Like, if you don't want to do your organic, we're not interested because I just don't believe in building a brand without creating a really authentic online presence outside of just the ad that you run for the next 7 days.
Yeah, and that phrase, like really authentic online presence, how do you help brands start to identify what their authentic voice is? Do you believe in founders being the face of their brand? Do you think they don't have to be? Like, I'd love your insight on some of that.
You know, when there's a face to a brand, consumers have more trust. And so I always encourage our founders to be the face of the brand. There is though a time and place for it. At the end of the day, if you're building a brand that is not associated with you and you're not the target customer, it may be sort of a dissociative marketing tactic to be the face when you're not that person. Like if you're creating women's underwear and you're a 50-year-old man, like should you be the face of the brand? No. But for, small businesses generally, you should be the face of the brand from my experience. What starts to happen when you become the face of the brand and you show up in that way on social is you begin to create connection in a way that your product or your service on its own simply cannot. Because we are humans and we want human connection. That's really where video comes in. And I'm sure we'll talk about video separately, but the power of video is we get to see each other. We get to see your mannerisms, the way you talk, the way you use your hands too much when you're speaking. All of these things really lead us to trust one another as human beings. It's human nature. As the face of the brand, you can show up authentically by creating content that you know is going to connect with your audience while also being true to who you are. So we work with an artist. She's a watercolor artist. She is the face of her brand. The brand is literally her name. And because the brand is her name, everyone knows her and she is the face. She has to show up. There's really no other way to do it. I know a lot of artists, businesses have their name in it. But what we've been able to do for her and why she's been so successful is because her story is woven into probably 80% of the content we create. So it's not just about the product, it's about the why behind the product. It's the story that led her to paint this thing and then turn that thing into a coaster, into a bag, into a tablecloth, wherever that product is going. That story component has generated such a deep connection between her and her audience that people lose their minds when we show behind the scenes B-roll of her, doing her art. Everything that goes into creating the product sells the product better than anything else you could imagine.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I'm listening to my artist right now and I can just imagine some people are saying, "Okay, great, but like I don't really have a story. I'm not that interesting." Like, are you sure I want to be on there? Like, what would you say to maybe the naysayers, the people that maybe think like their story isn't worthy of gathering people's attention or sharing?
So it's funny you say that because there was a time in my like early entrepreneurial journey where I felt the exact same way. And I remember I listened to a podcast and it was probably 2017, 2018. Like I was very early on in my own journey. And someone was talking about telling your story in your content, on your website primarily at that time. And I remember sitting back thinking, my story is so boring. Like I literally don't have a story. Like I work a full-time job. I'm building this brand in my free time on nights and weekends. I didn't have to struggle to like invest in this business. Like I literally just put all the money back in. It wasn't this, crazy founder story that we hear so often.
Mhm.
But when I look back and I think about that time, it's so funny because that part of my journey is the story today. So I would, if you're thinking about that right now, I would like sit in it and really think, what about this part of my story would be interesting to somebody else? Because now when I tell my story, that part is in the story, but it's a section because that's how life goes and that's how everyone's journey is. While it might not feel interesting to you, it's actually deeply interesting to somebody else. It's kind of like how we don't think like our days are very interesting. And so we don't think there's any point in showing it on Instagram stories. But the boring parts of your day are why someone finds you so interesting. So I would take that step back and say, okay, well, like, what exactly am I living through right now? What am I experiencing right now? What was I maybe experiencing a year ago? And how can I just sort of tie that all together? And maybe it's not, this perfectly formed story, but there's so much value in taking your audience along for the ride. I read a Gary Vaynerchuk book a couple years ago where he was talking about a lot of obviously people in his life are very well-rounded entrepreneurs and very far in their own journey. And he was saying, wouldn't it have been so cool to watch this person build their first business? Wouldn't it have been so cool to watch them fail along the way? Wouldn't it have been so cool to watch them continue to get up when they get pushed down? And I think there's so much interest in being a part of the journey. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. In fact, those messy parts are what people enjoy the most.
Yeah, and I think it makes people buy into you too. They're bought into your story. They see you from the ground up. It's like when people love a band, like before it's popular, it's like you're following along with this story. You're watching the person, from the very early stages, and there's something really amazing in that. And again, I love what you said about it may not seem interesting to you, but I think these trial and errors and this growth story is something that people love hearing and they love watching because it's different than a lot of people's careers.
It's also why TikTok influencers become anything. If you think about it, like
Yeah.
the most popular influencers on Instagram and on TikTok are the ones who took you along. Like that is how you build community, that is how you build interest. So the case studies are in front of you. Like there is many reasons to show the messy parts along the way. I would say the ones who try and show up perfect are the people who get ripped apart the most because people connect with the messy. Everyone's
Right.
imperfect. Everyone has challenges every day, and they want to know that you're not perfect too.
Right. And I feel like it's so interesting. I want to dive into TikTok and Instagram and, short form content with you for sure. But it is so interesting, even in my own experience, my messiest or just kind of like most real, most me, maybe least edited in some ways videos on both platforms are always the ones that perform the best because I feel like people are actually seeing who I am and that's what people want. Like just like you said. But with that in mind, I'd love to kind of break down these different platforms of TikTok, of Instagram, maybe other social media platforms that you're using as well. And how are we thinking about short form video? What are we thinking about it in 2025? And kind of how are you I don't know, thinking about it, using it in this year.
So, short form video is everything. I mean, if you're not doing short form, you are missing out on 80% of the growth that you could be seeing right now, especially for an industry like art, where I think about it in terms of being a transformative product where you're taking a blank canvas and you're turning it into something beautiful. That's also the same for like a supplement brand. Maybe you have a before and after, or interior design, you have a blank space and then you turn it into a beautiful living room. When you have a transformation, video lends itself so well. For a space like our social media marketing, it's kind of hard to show that like process because it's so long and so spread out. But for art, you have an incredible opportunity in front of you. When it comes to the strategy behind short form video, there are truly so many ways you can go about it. And a lot of it is based on your business model, the type of work that you do, who your target consumer is. But ultimately, it really is tied deeply into what we were just talking about with your personal brand and showing them behind the scenes. I have found, as you just said as well, the content that shows the most raw, process driven parts of the business are what perform the best. In fact, one of our artist clients, she sponsored a table at an event, and so her art was on the tablecloth, it was on the centerpiece, it was on the table settings, on the chairs, and it was stunning. It was all over. And the video that was like behind the scenes of the setup day and then the final install was her. It went absolutely viral. It had like 300,000 views on it on Instagram.
Well,
That doesn't even show a product that was for sale. Like all those products were custom made for that event. And what we've seen, which is very interesting for her, and it may be the case for other people as well, is that it's always the like one-off experiences, the one-off products, the event sponsorships that do really well for her. And I truly believe it's because people want to feel exclusive. They want to feel special and they want to feel like they're getting something that no one else has. So if you can ever create that feeling for your audience in video or in your content, you're really onto something. I would think, how can I show behind the scenes? How can I give them a glimpse of who I am and what sets me apart from every other artist out there? Because this isn't, I mean, really no industry is a unique space anymore. And there's hundreds of thousands of artists on social media showing their art and doing what we're talking about today. But it truly is who you are and how you do what you do that makes you different. If you can lean into that, primarily in video, you are going to be a mile ahead of the person down the street because you are tapping into you, which no one else can replicate. They can replicate your art, but they can't replicate who you are.
I think that's such a good point. Something I've noticed, and I'd love your input on this, with short form video is I'm both on Instagram and TikTok, and I find that the platforms vary in terms of audience and like what performs well. Do you recommend cross promoting? Do you think of them as two pretty separate platforms? What is your, I don't know, analysis on TikTok versus Instagram?
I definitely think of them as separate worlds, I would say. There are a lot of trends that only live on TikTok and they never make it over to Instagram. Doesn't really go the other way though. So if you're creating content just for Instagram, you're going to be missing out on a lot of opportunity over on TikTok. More than that, the apps know if you have created the piece of content in a different app and it's not originally meant for them. So, what I would recommend is if you are maybe posting like a B-roll video or behind the scenes or it's a voiceover on something, edit in an outside app like InShot or CapCut, save down that video and put like any text, closed captioning, final touches within each of the apps, Instagram and TikTok individually as that final step so that the app recognizes that it's made for that platform. But beyond that, the audiences are so different. And it's really the audience behavior. It's the same people, but it's the audience behavior
Mhm.
drastically different between Instagram and TikTok. What I mean by that is that over on TikTok, it's savage. Like it's a crazy world out there. And you have to be prepared for that if your video gains any traction at all. But the comment section on TikTok is a stratosphere of its own. And people just have a different attitude towards content on that platform than they do on Instagram. On Instagram, we're used to like a more curated touch. We don't want like a crying video. We don't, not that anyone would really be doing it in this audience, but like we don't care about like the really nitty gritty stuff that you would show over on TikTok. If you're someone who's listening to this and you're like, I want to get real, I want to be authentic, I want to show the behind the scenes and like picking up my child from daycare and then running to the store to get paint supplies, like TikTok's the platform for you because that's where people want to see it. And you're not going to get away not showing that on TikTok. But on Instagram, it's just a lot more curated and I would say subdued compared to TikTok audience.
Yeah, I definitely have seen that and would agree. Do you think people can get away with just being on Instagram or just being on TikTok, or do you think we're kind of in a space and in a world now where you need to have a presence on both?
You know, I think that you can get away having just an Instagram. And the truth of the matter is that most businesses utilize Instagram as their core platform. So 100% of the clients that we serve, the brands that we serve, are on Instagram. A small percentage of them, or smaller percentage of them, are on TikTok. And that's for a wide range of reasons, whether they don't have a younger demographic audience, the budget doesn't allow, they don't have the right content for that platform. Those are all things that we consult on and recommend. Like, is this the right platform for you? But the truth is, if you aren't on TikTok, you're likely leaving money on the table because there is a lot of opportunity for discovery on TikTok. And there's not a lot of opportunity for discovery on Instagram comparatively. So if you're newer, if you are launching something in a new category and you want to gain traction, or you're trying a totally different strategy with your content, like showing more behind the scenes, TikTok would be the avenue to explore, but I would never leave Instagram behind because it really is that foundational platform that people are utilizing for search.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great way to put it. And I am assuming some people are really fired up about this and are ready to like dive into their TikTok and start one or, spend more time on it. But I can imagine some people are a little bit overwhelmed with having to add another platform potentially to their plate. What is your thought on repurposing content? And do you have any strategies to strategically, like you said, the kind of the CapCut example, like to strategically repurpose content in a way that's going to be effective versus just copying and pasting it across all the platforms?
Yeah, I would really go back to my example of the CapCut. So, like, edit in an outside app and then final edit in your individual publishing platforms. Realistically, not all content should be repurposed. I'm a believer in repurposing. I think you should make the most of any piece that you create. However, it may not make sense to. Like I said, if you're publishing something really raw, like that would only live on TikTok. If you had a professional videographer come out and shoot you painting for a day, that should only live on Instagram. This is where having like a marketing team to consult with is a really valuable part of building a brand, because these may not be the things that come top of mind to
Right.
everyone if you're not in this space. But I think that, because the audiences are different and because people are expecting different material, it is important to strategically approach your content differently between the platforms. So if it's more generic, high level, easy content, that could live between the two. But I would take the time to really look at what trends are happening on TikTok, what trends are happening on Instagram, do those individually. Then think deeper about how you yourself want to show up in your video content. Maybe you show more behind the scenes over on TikTok and you keep those behind the scenes more on Instagram stories for Instagram. There's just a different approach with the way that you publish and disseminate content between the two platforms, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when things do start to take off, what do you focus on in terms of metrics? I think a lot of people get caught up in views and followers, and I don't necessarily think that those are always the most important. Can you share your thoughts on what metrics really stand out to you and what you focus on when trying to grow and increase the ROI for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, listen, views and followers are the easy metric to really track because they're public. And everyone is concerned about their public image. They want, it to look like they're maybe someone bigger than they are, and that's totally understandable. Everyone wants to be bigger than they are in reality.
Yeah.
However, those are what I call vanity metrics. They don't actually mean anything for your business. There are plenty of businesses that have 500,000 followers and they make $1,000 a month. There's really no correlation to those numbers, to your actual back end sales. What we track and what are really important are what we call your conversion metrics. And these are the numbers that actually lead to sales. Now, they're not sales numbers, but they're the numbers that, like Instagram, for example, will provide to you that show you people moving down the marketing funnel and getting closer to that sale, which they'll then purchase through your website. Those numbers are your profile visits. So when people see your content, are they going to your profile? Are they consuming more content rather than just that one piece? Your website taps. So, the actual traffic to your website organically from your social media. Comments and conversations. This is a really big miss for a lot of brands. If someone's commenting on your content, are you replying back? Like, are you creating a conversation, or are you just letting it die and ignore them? You'd be shocked at how many brands literally get so much engagement and they never reply back to any of them. But people just want to be seen. People just want to feel seen, heard, and loved. And if you can provide that experience for them, you're pushing them one step closer to the sale rather than leaving money on the table. Same goes for your DMs. If people are DMing you questions, but you just have too much going on in your life, or you don't read your DMs for whatever reason, you're literally leaving relationships, partnerships, collaborations, sales on the table in your DMs. It's so important to make sure not only are you getting that interaction, but that you're replying back, and even more than that, starting those conversations. Those would be the big ones that I would be tracking internally on a really high level. Your follower count is something that should be growing organically as a byproduct of great content and good community. That's not the number that shows you growth, quote unquote, even though, as we've said, it is the easy number to look at when tracking your growth.
Yeah, this might be super basic, but I think some people hear the word marketing funnel all the time and they're like, what exactly is that? And what falls into the top of the funnel versus the bottom of the funnel? Can you give an elevator pitch, 1 minute overview of what is a marketing funnel and why should we care about it?
Totally. So your marketing funnel has like 3 to 4 areas, but for the sake of this, I'll just talk about 3 of them. The top of your marketing funnel, and a funnel is like an upside down triangle. So we have the biggest part at the top and the smallest part at the bottom. And at the very top is your brand awareness. It's your discovery phase. This is why organic content is so critical, because that is what builds brand awareness. It's also why video content is so important, because these platforms are favoring video, which means that a reel is going to have maybe 10,000 plays on it, but your photo post from yesterday maybe has 300 reach. And that's a really big discrepancy, because if you just kept doing video, you'd be like 3xing that 10,000 versus 3xing the 300. So you have a lot more awareness being built. When you're building awareness, it's so important that you're sharing your story, explaining who you are, and it's not just like selling the product. It's really showing like the brand as a whole, and you're tapping into different marketing or your content buckets so that you give a holistic view of, hey, this is who we are. As people move down the funnel, they enter the consideration phase. So, this is where they may leave a comment or send you a DM. They want to learn more. They have questions. They want to ask, hey, do you sell this in this size? They may visit your website. They may, depending on your business model, book a call with you, fill out a collaboration form, all of these kind of like interest points, but they haven't purchased anything yet. That's also when they're going to visit your profile. So that's where your profile visits come into play because people are like, who's she? I want to learn more. I want to see what else she does. I want to see what other patterns she designs, whatever that might look like. And then the third phase is conversion. So this is where someone takes that next step and they purchase from you. You know, they may purchase from your Meta shop, TikTok shop, your website, book an event with you, whatever that looks like. They're taking that final step to transact money between the two of you. And there's a lot you can do content wise with conversions. So you can use testimonials in your content. You can ask someone to record a video, show your art in someone's home as a UGC style content. There's a lot you can do content wise. It's not just like, oh, okay, like that's the end of the funnel for me. There's actually so much you can do beyond the sale to continue marketing that sale and turn it into 5 more sales for yourself.
Yeah, that's so great. I've never even thought about what to do post conversion, but I think that's really helpful. We've really been focusing on social media in particular. What is your thought on email and kind of where does email fall along this funnel? How are you kind of helping your clients use email?
I'm so glad you brought up email because it's such an important part of your marketing strategy as a whole. We do social media every single day in and out, but ultimately, our goal, whether we're managing email marketing or not for a client, our goal is to build your audience on social and then get them the heck off because you do not own your social media audience. It could literally go away tomorrow. The platform could crash for a day. They could delete your profile. You get shadow banned. Like you literally never know because you don't own that space. You're on borrowed land. However, your email list you do own. It's the only list that you own. As a business owner, in my opinion, building your email list is one of the most important things that you can focus on because that is the longevity. Also, thinking like if you were to ever sell the business or sell a share of your business, like your email list is an asset that the business has. Email is so powerful because it is a direct lead into the sale. When you think about consuming an email, you might see a product that you really love in a marketing email and you click on that product and it brings you to the sales page. One click, it's in your cart. Now you can check out or you can Apple Pay in less than 2 steps. But on social, it's like a 4 step process. When you get someone into email, you're able to make the sale a lot faster. You also have a more direct channel to reach them. A lot more people read their emails than see social content because only 2% of your audience is even seeing your content on social, but
Wow.
100% of people are getting that email. It's just dependent on like which inbox is it falling into? Does the subject line connecting with them? Do they want to open? Which are totally different strategies. But when we manage social and email for our clients, it's incredible because you're really hitting your audience from all angles. And with that, you want to make sure your social and your email are connected. They have similar messaging, and you're creating this consistent brand experience for your audience. You don't want your email to feel super polished and then your social feels like this raw behind the scenes look at a mama for. So you want to create that messaging that's consistent while approaching them differently because you can create that faster sales avenue in your email. So to answer your question, email is incredibly important.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of email, so I always try to slide it in there. I'm like, guys, please listen. It's so important. What
Same.
I'd love to ask, and I'm sure what a lot of people are thinking is, okay, great, we're bought in, email's amazing. How do I actually grow and nurture to build an effective email list? Like, what does that actually look like? How am I taking people from, a platform like TikTok or Instagram and actually getting them engaged enough to click subscribe? I think people are worried about coming across as salesy or, feeling something like that, which I have a lot of opinions on. But I kind of want to set the stage for you. Like how do you think about growing and nurturing an email list and just getting people over that hump of like believing in email?
Well, first of all, you are a business, so you are salesy. Like that's your job.
I
Actually,
told you,
that's
I'm
your
like, I
number
have a
one
lot of
job.
opinions on that.
Yeah, I'm sure because it's so funny that especially we as women have that notion that we shouldn't be salesy, and that's a whole other conversation. But the truth is, the number one way that we build email lists is from social media. So the biggest strategy I would say that we execute is making sure our clients have a landing page to sign up to their email list outside of just like the footer on their website. That's a really big mistake I see a lot of brands make is there's not a unique URL that you could share with somebody to sign up to your email list. So step 1, make sure you have that. Step 2, share that link to your social media or to your Instagram stories. On social, if you can get people to give you their email list, it's a win. Alternatively, if you don't have that landing page or your audience is maybe not filling out that form when you do share it, you can just share a question box to your stories and be like, hey, we're going to have an email go out tomorrow. It's going to have an exclusive discount just for our email list. If you want in, drop your email here. It's one extra step for you. You just manually add the emails to your list, but we've actually been able to grab more emails for our clients doing that than sharing the URL just because it's easier for the consumer. Again, just cutting out the extra steps for people can make a really big difference.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a good tip because it's also so easy for you too. It's like we throw in the question box, then we, throw the emails into our email provider. I think all of this it's so interesting. What I kind of want to switch gears and ask is all this stuff is so positive. What mistakes do you see people make? Like across platforms, like what are kind of some of the bigger marketing mistakes? It can either be nitty gritty, like let's not do this on Instagram anymore. Or it can be, big picture, people are neglecting email, things like that. What are some mistakes you're seeing people make maybe as they come to work with you or just in general, kind of being on all of these platforms all the time?
I think I touched on a few of them, not replying to comments, not building your email list, not having an email list. I could go on and on, but specifically for artists, one mistake that I see way too often is still just posting photos of their work. And I get it. Like it takes a lot to film content, to edit content, to know what you even want to film in order to get that on social. It's actually why at 95 Media we do quarterly content shoots with our clients for that very reason because every founder we know is busy. Everyone's juggling family and kids and the vacation this summer and trying to build your business, but at the same time, if building your business is a priority for you, getting support to execute is the best thing that you can do. However, just continuing to like cover your eyes and pretend video doesn't exist is not the way to do it. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people and brands do that prior to working with us because it's all they can get out the door. But if that's something that you're doing, if you're looking at your feed and you're like, ooh, 90% of my content is photo because that's all I have capacity for right now, I would just lean into filming B-roll. Like just record yourself being you, doing your job, doing your work, and see how that goes. Like don't spend all this time editing, overthinking your content. It really can be more simple than you're giving it credit for. But if you want to take it to the next level, I would just encourage you to get that support because, you know, a lot of female founders that we work with, which are our primary audience client type, you know, as women, we're like afraid to ask for help sometimes. And we want to feel like we can do it all and we don't need help and we don't want to inconvenience anybody. But that's not a way to grow a brand. No one's brand grew just by them. No one's self-made. Everyone gets support along the way. And your content is one way that you can get support in a really straightforward manner.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think once you get in the habit of filming yourself, it becomes way more second nature. I found when I first started, it was intimidating and it took a long time, but now I'm like, oh, I can throw a reel together so fast. But
Yeah.
even beyond that, I think what keeps me going is just the difference between when I post a photo and when I post a reel. Because I do post, carousels and photos and things from time to time, but I mainly focus on video content. because it's become easy for me, and the difference in, views and engagement and all of that is just so much higher. So it's almost like, why even waste the time doing the thing that I know just isn't going to perform as well? And so I think that's been a mindset shift that has also taken the pressure off. Oh my gosh, I have to post, all these photos. It's like, just post one reel and you're going to get like way more views anyway.
Yeah, once you start seeing the results, it's such a good point. Like you realize, okay, like this is working. It's worth the extra 5 minutes here. I can get it done until, maybe I want to outsource down the road.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on using companies like a mini chat or something like that to respond to like automatic respond to comments or DMs? Because I know you said a lot of brands are missing the opportunity of engagement by responding, but it could be a time thing, or a lot of my listeners are, have other jobs or busy moms, or I get the response of like, I don't have time. What would you say, like, what are your thoughts on that versus like how much do we need to be in the DMs?
I'm a huge fan of AI, and ManyChat is AI responses. I'm a big fan of it as a starting point.
Hmm.
I don't believe that that should be the only way you reply to your audience, because at the end of the day, you know, comments are leads for you. And if you're someone who's building a business, leads are how you make money. And so you want people reaching out and asking questions about your product, inquiring about having you do X, Y, and Z. My brain like kind of breaks down when I see people not reply to inquiries, because that's literally like hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars that you're just leaving, not only leaving and not capitalizing on yourself, but you're leaving someone who really wanted whatever you have for sale high and dry. So I think there's opportunity to utilize ManyChat. If you, for example, like with podcasting, I think it's a great tool. You can send somebody that episode, they have it in their inbox, and now I can immediately listen. That's great. If someone is inquiring about a service or a product and not necessarily like one thing that you can send a direct link to buy, I don't think that AI and chatbots should be involved in that process, because they're not going to get the custom answer that's needed. If it's like you've made a post about this new product launch that you have, and it's a sales page, and you can send them right to that, and they type shop and then they get the link to that sales page, that's great. That takes a lot of work off your plate. But if someone's like, hey, I'm just really interested in working with you at X, Y, and Z event, I wanted to know if you want to be a part of this, let me know. And you have an auto response like, hey, thank you for inquiring with 95 Media, we try and reply back within 72 hours, have a great day. That's terrible. Like, no one wants, just don't reply. Like,
Right.
just reply within 72 hours.
Leave them
Get
unread.
Literally leave them on red. So I think there's just like a time and place, and I wouldn't go too crazy with that, because people want that human interaction. In our services, our social media management services, we include an hour on every posting day actively in our client's account, because that hour, truthfully, like if we didn't do that hour, our clients would not see 75% of the growth that they see. That time nurturing the audience who already knows of you and getting in front of new eyes is not only how you monetize the audience you currently have, but it's also how you grow your brand awareness, that top of funnel. Like that's how that number continues to grow and you get new leads constantly in your funnel. So there's just a lot of opportunity on the table for a lot of brands who aren't doing that, which is 99% of people, because it's a really time consuming part, and also something that's really valuable if you were to outsource.
That's incredible that you guys offer that much time for it. I mean, I haven't heard of that, and I think that is probably so valuable for the people that work with you. I do want to ask, because you brought it up a couple times, what are your thoughts on AI's role in the content creation slash marketing space? I personally use ChatGPT all the time, but I do think there's a time and place for my voice versus like getting some help on things. What are your thoughts on it? I know that's a big question, so
I actually couldn't agree more. I think I have the same mindset. We love using ChatGPT as, again, a starting point. So we will use it primarily in strategy, ideation, kind of like, okay, I'm thinking about this. We have this product we're launching, create like a week plan of content. Then we take those ideas, pop things in and out, move them around, judge them, write the custom caption, or take the caption that's written and totally rip it apart and rewrite it with our voice. And I think the truth is, AI is getting a lot smarter and it's going to be able to do a lot more. in the coming weeks and months. Even this is not years
Mhm.
away. This so much has changed over the past year that ChatGPT has even been publicly like on everyone's radar.
Right.
And because of that, I think the truth is that AI is a part of a lot that we don't even necessarily realize right now. We're going through a season where we're building a custom GPT to help with our own strategies and do our work better. But in no way do I think that it can replace the human touch. And that's where I think a lot of people get confused. I've even had people say to me like, "Oh, I'm afraid ChatGPT is going to take my job." I actually don't think it's going to take anyone's job. I think it's going to allow you to do your job better. It's going to enhance the human touch that you have. So, because of that, I think there's just an unlimited space and it's great as a jumping off point, but I would not copy and paste what it uses because when you do that, it is very obvious.
Yep, I completely agree. And I think it's actually going to be huge for artists in my audience in particular, because a lot of the people listening are new or they aren't in a space where they can hire out some of these things. And it's like, I always say, treat it as your strategist, treat it as your assistant, treat it as, someone who's getting you organized. Like, you wouldn't want your assistant necessarily like writing your emails. You might have them like proof it or tell you like a good day to send it, but that's how I've always thought about it. And I find that so helpful. And it sounds like you're kind of in agreement. It's like there's so much you can do from an organization, a strategy, a like, let's get us started point. And then you put the human touch that I agree, it can't be replaced. I don't think AI is coming for our jobs. I think it's allowing us to actually be much, much better and do more in the jobs we already have. So I think that's
100%.
a fantastic take on that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I look at it.
Yeah, well, this has been amazing. You have so many incredible insights. I also recommend everyone listen to your podcast because you go even deeper into a lot of these topics. But can you share how the audience can learn more about you, about 95 Media, about all the different things you're working on?
Absolutely. Yeah. So our website is 95media.co, all spelled out NINETYFIVEMEDIA.co. And on Instagram is where we're most active. It's 90.5.media. We post almost every day over there. We're on all the platforms. So wherever you are, we are. But you can learn more about our services on our website, on our Instagram. We post everything there. And we have our podcast, Stop Scrolling, Start Scaling. We are nearly at 200 episodes, which is really crazy. And I share so much really juicy information over there. We get really detailed and finite on the podcast in a way that we really don't anywhere else. I love that platform. I love being on podcasts. But truly, if you're looking for support with social media marketing, I'd love to chat. We do this every single day. It's all we do. And we're really good at it to help you scale your business. If you're looking to take that step back, focus on the business while we handle marketing, it's what we're amazing at.
Absolutely. Well, I will link all of that in the show notes. But Emma, thank you so much for your time today, for sharing all of your insights. I know this is going to be incredibly valuable for all of my listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.